Well, I tell y'all, it's still morning time and I'm still in my pajamas, but did just decide I'd try to come on here to do a little something and thinking that, with the camel, I probably should be doing things a little bit differently and probably should be trying to carve it once by myself before coming on here to do anything on the camera, but decided it wouldn't be a bad idea to come on here, take the blank, and already go ahead and start trying to take care of little things like this because it wouldn't hurt anything just to kind of demonstrate as I go and talk as I go and go a little ways with this. So I kind of come across the little top here of the head. Do want to tell you all a little bit something about that last video. You know that I told you how I kind of got a little sidetracked and had to kind of stop it and edit a part out and do it again. And my dad's office is down here in the basement, and he kind of had to step out of the office to have a little personal conversation on his phone, and sure didn't want that to be on the video for you all to hear, so kind of edited that little part out as well. And so we just have to be real cautious what we do. He probably had no idea that I had my camera on, but we kind of got things out the best that we could. And I say for this one little design comes a long way, and I'd say it would probably be a better camel if its muzzle was a little longer, but we kind of come along things the best way we can. I remember like the first time I ever smoked a cigarette, it was a pack of Camels, and just remember how Joe Camel was back in the old days, the way that he was always just that little cartoon that he was, that had a little cigarette in his mouth, and the fact that he kind of encouraged kids to smoke, and they were trying to get rid of that mascot. I tell y'all, I'd say for one thing, people, the little short time in my life that I ever smoked or tried a cigarette, it was only temporarily, and probably even after I quit cigarettes, I continued cigars for a little while, but don't even do those anymore. So we kind of got to be thankful that we've gotten little things as best taken care of as they can be. So it's just among those things where everything is different in life from one person to the next. You know, I say we're going to try to get a little bit out of the center between the ears a little more. So try to take that step. It's kind of getting a little complicated to do, but I think we are going to manage it here a little bit sooner or later. Get rid of all that little extra clutter in between, and I say probably got the ears to come out just good enough to where we could get a little satisfied enough just by what we are doing. I say try to shave along these lines, get rid of some stuff as best as we need it to be, try to work our way along here, remove some of this stuff from around the camel's neck, and I say kind of know that it's just what comes down to what it has to be, and then put the work in best way we can or know how to do it. I say, oh, a little time and effort and work to go in, and sometimes I say even work our way around this little hump to make it so it's going to be a little place of a camel's place to go and kind of see how this is just one little thing we got here where we got the little lines in. We think we're going to try to go along here and remove a little extra from around the hump and take care of little matters we got in our hands right here. I say, oh, work to be done with how camel is going to turn out, and work a little ways till we get up the hump a little more and kind of make it so he's going to have a little curve up here around this hump. That's kind of what we need. And then come along here up to the side of his muzzle, take little areas along this way to make it so it's going to be rounded off below the chin, take it so it's going to be like the camel does, and have a little grace and faith in all we're doing to make the camel just right size, right ways. Oh, and a little joy in our work to come and make it so we see brighter days, images, and other neat little things to come, and just this is probably going to be one of the best pieces of work to come out and make it so we see little camels that make them so we're kind of driving ourselves a little wild and crazy sometimes. And probably while we're at it, just kind of try to scrape away all that extra fudgy stuff, all that extra fudgy stuff, all that little pencil line and stuff I say probably don't need, and then just kind of come along where we have more things we get rid of over time, and so it's just where you see we kind of got rid of a lot of stuff there we might not have needed, and so I say it's just the type of business and art we have and see and hear and know, and oh, I say, like, kind of working our way about getting rid of these bonus lines we can do without. I say this is just one of those works as it comes and it goes. And we're kind of getting rid of these marks and lines the best way we can, best way we know how. And so there's going to be a little extra work to come and be involved in what we're doing. You know, it's just kind of like how the work is done, making it so we see that the lines are written as best they need to be. So come on and make a little place where we're going to try to get rid of a little bit more as it goes. And kind of like say, the lines shall be taken out as best they can to make it so we see what a nice little camel is going to be. I say it's just kind of what a little work does in us. Come on and take it, I say. It's just the little ways about life we work into a piece of carbon, I'd say, just to come along. And I'll tell you all that there's going to be other pieces of sandpaper we're going to have around here soon, but I'll tell you all what I tried to do is to go ahead and make a little straight little slant shave across the tummy, and then just kind of make other little lines to come along, take it so it's just going to make to where we're going to have just the right camel to have a way with us, and then put all the work to doing what we do into one little figure as it's supposed to be. I think we're getting rid of all that we don't need under here, so we're kind of getting rid of a little bit more along these lines as well. Kind of getting rid of the things in here that we can do without, and some of the extra marks and stuff that come along. I say that it's like the time when we kind of take little times and put little other pieces to work, and then come down to where we know what it all is. I'd say I'd say that I've got enough done for the carving part. Maybe kind of take a little off the corners of the front muzzle here. Probably try to narrow it down here and narrow it down along here, and maybe even try to get rid of the stuff that I say we don't need or can do without, and finally get it to where it stands right up like this. And I tell y'all that we're going to try to take rid of all this little time and just put a little extra time to go to the ears. Little things we're getting rid of here. And so I say that there's just kind of places we're coming along and getting little work done in. Make it so Camel Boy can come out the best he can to be like the little camel he stands out to be. Do think we're going to do a little work along the behind and around the legs and get a little time where we get the work done in the camel and see how his little bit of work is making its way around us to where we're kind of showing a little grace in what we do and seeing what we have and come around to where we're making it so it's going to be a great figure to us to see. I say it was a good amount of work we got done along here. What's questionable is where we're going to put the slogan tag on this. We'll figure that out some point or another, get that part of it done, and make sure we know what we're going to do when it all comes down to what we're going to have and what we're going to need. Oh, little time and for all we got, I say. And for this work we have, we see that it's coming this way, making it so we see brighter days coming to us and brighter nights to come. And I'll tell you all little stories about yesterday. You know, I saw all this stuff people were talking about an eclipse, and I was a bit busy yesterday, didn't get a chance to get out and look for anything like that, but I knew it was out there because so much was being said and all, and it was just kind of a little strange how it was here and there. And we know one thing for sure, that of all little things, they might have other eclipses other days where if it's ever on a school day, they might close school for it. There's an eclipse coming up in 2024 for which I know they're going to be doing that. Sometimes they kind of figure out scientifically when the next one is going to be. So I say the work has come along this guy, and maybe he won't stand up completely straight, but he can come pretty close. We'll take a little bit more off of this side as well to kind of make sure that he does, and think we kind of might be getting it a little bit better this time around. Maybe I'd say think we're getting closer now, so that's all that matters. Think we're going to try to give him a little bit of a sanding and try to see what we can do. If I can find the piece of sandpaper around here, and in this particular case it well, we don't want too rough a grit, but I'd say that if I find that piece that was laying around here recently, well, I found one that looks like it'll work, so kind of got to get rid of these little humps here, get rid of all the little places where the knife kind of left little scars and stuff, and kind of work along where we get little things worked into the camel and get him to where he's going to be bright, nice, shiny looking, and a little character of a shape. I say that this little guy is going to work along to be just what we think he's going to need to be when we get done, and taking little times where we work our way about and then come down to where we're going to see what he's going to be when he comes down in the very end, and make it so he's going to be shining kink in the armor. And so by this work and by this life, I pray, people, that we all just see a little ways that we can work in his ways, and see that God created all the creatures of the earth, you know. Even what he said about a camel, you know, there's a place in scripture where he says it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. We know that lots of things can be said throughout scripture in many different ways, and we know that this is kind of how this can work with all we have in us. You know, that sometimes there's been so much to be said in the Bible, but sometimes I say, you know, there's been different meanings to different things, you know. Sometimes passages don't mean literally what they say, but sometimes passages speak figuratively, like that one I just mentioned about it being easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. It's kind of like one of those things where he might even be saying that a true person who is rich in God, if they have a lot of wealth, they will share their wealth. Maybe even feed the hungry or help those in need or something like that, because they have what they have for it. Because we know that rich or poor doesn't determine whether you enter the kingdom of heaven, but it's really all a matter of whether or not you receive grace, whether or not you've received the grace of knowing Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. For we know in the Bible we are saved by grace. We're not saved by wealth or the lack thereof. So that's just one thing that we look in the Bible and see to know that Jesus is the Lord of all things, and one of those people who, when he comes down, he's going to come back to earth and take us home to eternity. And I'd say little marks shall come off this camel in a way or two sooner or later, but I'm going to have to go back and get out another grit to work the rest of the way around this, because it's going to need another grit to kind of smooth out the little bit of roughness and lines that come from the rough grit. It's going to need a finer grit for that. So that's what the rest is going to be, and what it's going to do, and how it's going to come along to make such a nice little camel to work its way through us and see a little light and energy and shining time go in us. And I'd say that even in that same passage where he says that about the camel and the rich man, and then I've even heard the rest of the passage, how it says that the disciples ask then who can be saved, and he goes on to say anything is possible with God. I haven't looked exactly at the passage to see everything, but I do know that that was one little thing that Kenneth Copeland pointed out. Not that he's one of my favorite teachers or somebody I agree with every word that's said by, but the fact of the matter being that it's just kind of one little way that I hear people kind of say different things. And even when he was on Inside Edition and talking to that lady, there was a lot that was said, and even how they had a little video of it on YouTube and everything else to say. And I tell you all that just a little time and work and effort can make a piece come out so much better and more wonderful. That's how I hope this guy has done. And I'd say that there's probably going to be other little things will come along here and kind of do as well, but I'd say that this is just one where we work along and have little fun times in life, fun times to slime, like Garfield would say in his book. Oh, I say we're going to try to put little eyes in the camel sooner or later, make it so he stands right up, and put him right here where he's going to stand, show a little memoir to us. And when it comes around to it, I'll get a lighter grit of sandpaper to finish him off with. But I say there's probably a few more little places to go on some of these pieces of work. Perhaps I'd say when it comes to the little wise men, it's probably going to come a time that we're going to try to put faces into them. And while we're at it and while we have a little time, we can probably sand these lambs as well with this particular grit as we talk about certain things, because there's quite a few pieces in here that are going to need some sanding just so we can get the pencil marks off of them, because that's going to be the kind of work it's going to come down to being when it works itself up and makes us so we see lambs and people and talking like life and all this stuff that kind of works our way into us and sees a little light to come into us. And oh, I say, oh, the work is just fine and dandy and making us all see bright images and bright days and bright nights, and oh, I say, so much more. Kind of come along here, maybe with these little pencil marks we have on the shepherd, kind of try to get rid of some of those, but I don't think I see too many pencil marks on them. I think what I see is mostly just little awkward grains in the wood where they come along in little strange ways. But sometimes I think that even where I drew these lines for these beards, there's probably little pencil to come off there in a few little places, and try to get rid of that the best we can. And I'd say the pencil lines are going to come away, make it so they got like all the big beards and all, and then try to do the same little work into this little shepherd fella as well. Get rid of the pencil lines in his beard and all the little cut lines and knife hooks and all the little strange little things we come across and see in this little piece, I say. And oh, the work is just being done just to make him so much better and easier to see and to deal with, and to know that it's just the kind of work that kind of brightens us all the way And I'd like to say that if it so interests you to subscribe to this channel, I'd appreciate it if you do so. I'd like to get all the subscribers I can get. I appreciate you coming on and watching me, hearing what I have to say, showing what I can do, and hope you will be on to see much more in the future. Take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.